Advanced Window Products offers Graber window coverings, high-end quality with the best warranty. Save 30% off when you mention KSL. AdvancedWindows.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A chance of scattered showers still in the forecast for today, maybe tomorrow. Highs expected today to hit 47, but then we'll get a little bit warmer, 50 on Thursday and 53 on Friday. Right now it's cloudy and 41 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Happy Liberation Day.
Happy Liberation Day, Taylor.
Before we get into all of the details and the real celebration, or as I now call it, having been to a hockey game, Selly, apparently is what you refer to as celebration. That is hockey slang. I am going to be using that throughout the show, Aaron, just FYI. But again, happy Liberation Day. Welcome to KSL's Inside Sources. I am Taylor Morgan here with Aaron Ryder. Aaron, first things first. Special election races in Wisconsin and Florida were supposed to be an early indication or barometer of President Trump's second term, especially giving us a sense of how American voters feel about the direction of the country under President Trump, looking ahead perhaps to the 2026 midterms. Very important. In the end, we had a mixed bag of results. Republicans won 2 congressional races in Florida, as expected, although by smaller margins than Trump won in those districts. Not surprised by that, really, but some are surprised.
Well, the Democrats raised a lot of money, too, for those races.
They did. A Democratic-backed candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court won, despite lots of money being poured in by Elon Musk, of course. Very excited to get into all of that. Of course, before we do, we want to remind our listeners that President Trump is expected to announce his slate of new tariffs as part of the Liberation Day festivities today. We are planning to take that live potentially in the second hour of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio, roughly around 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Aaron, so if and when President Trump goes live, we will go to it. Again, before we get to that, though, Aaron, let's talk about today's real story, the first story, these special election results. What was your reaction to seeing the Republicans winning both Florida congressional races yesterday, Aaron, but then the Democratic, the liberal candidate, winning in Wisconsin? What was your reaction yesterday?
No surprise about the ones in Florida.
Okay.
I think most people expected that. Even the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, even acknowledged they weren't going to win, but the expectation was that they would do better than expected. And I think that is about how it played out, right?
Yeah. I think we all have to remember, though, that President Trump has never had a huge game-changing impact down ballot.
Yeah.
Right? Of course.
He turns out voters.
He turns out voters, but typically those voters turn out for him.
Yeah.
We saw a complete failure among Republican candidates in the last midterm cycle, in part because Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Republicans need to remember that voters turn out for President Trump who do not turn out for down ballot Republicans in these kind of midterm races and in congressional races. So even in Florida, Trump may have won these districts by 30 points. But that doesn't mean we should set that same bar for other Republicans.
Right. Well, and actually, just to sidetrack there for a second, we talk a lot about what Democrats need to do to start winning and that Democrats need to start improving their messaging to get a message at all.
Figure out a message,
Figure out a message. But we haven't talked a lot about what Republicans are going to need to do when Donald Trump is not on the ballot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does that mean for Republicans? And the midterms will give us an indication of that.
Yeah. Well, we have to assume the courts will prevent Donald Trump from being back on the ballot because, as we know, as we've talked
It's just
about
not
on the
gonna
show,
happen.
he wants a third term. We'll see what happens with that. Of course, we will follow that story. First, let's go to Wisconsin. I have a lot of thoughts on this Wisconsin State Supreme Court election. Let's hear a little bit about what happened in Wisconsin.
We did it. You did all the work. You put all your heart into it, and I can't thank you enough for everything you did to try to make this a success, but it just didn't work. And yeah, I've called Judge Crawford and conceded. No. You got to accept the results. Just don't. Yeah, right. I'm not up here making any joke. This is the numbers aren't gonna turn around. They're too bad, and we're not gonna pull this off. So, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. God bless you. God bless the state of Wisconsin. God bless America. We will rise again. We'll get up to fight another day. But this wasn't our day.
Okay, that was Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice nominee Brad Schimmel's concession speech last night. This is the race in Wisconsin for the state Supreme Court in which Elon Musk had poured millions and millions of dollars of his own money in which
Through his PAC.
Through his PAC. He also essentially did a little bit of a lottery for a couple voters who won $1 million each, to be voters.
And what, you got $100 if you signed the petition, right?
That's right. So definitely he was directly involved. He put a lot of personal and PAC money into Wisconsin, yet at the end of the day, the Democratic candidate, the more liberal candidate in that race won. And that was the concession speech from the Elon Musk, Donald Trump-backed Republican nominee Brad Schimmel. Aaron, reactions to that concession speech? It was sad.
It was
a little
sad.
Concerning at moments there.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
It's hard to lose. It's hard to concede. I've done it. You know that. And it's not easy to do it. And I have a lot of respect for candidates who are able to concede gracefully. Now, I do want to say, though, there was mention in there about, April Fools and is this a joke? That would be one of the most cruel jokes that you could play as an April Fool's thing on both sides, both for the candidate and for the supporters. So, anyway, I thought about that as I was listening to it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate Brad Schimmel's speech here. Not thrilled with the reaction there from some of his supporters in the room, yelling things like, no, lies, cheaters, So a lot of credit to him to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that.
Do you think those were his supporters, or do you think those were Elon Musk's supporters?
At the event? That's a good question, Aaron. Yeah. I can't imagine that's a Venn diagram that is too far apart. I imagine that many of them.
Probably not, but...
Right? But
anyway.
Yeah. No, he stood up to them. He said, no, the results are legitimate. It's not even close. There is no way we're coming back from this. We're not going to contest the results of this election. We are going to accept it, and we are going to move on, and we are going to build for the future. Mm-hmm. That is the exact right thing for a losing candidate to say in that moment, rather than leaning into any doubt or trying to play up any kind of conspiracy around the results of the election, to simply accept them, own them, to tell your supporters, thank you for your support, but no, we lost this election and we're going to move on from it. Aaron, I guess maybe it's a sad commentary in our country that we're celebrating and calling out just a candidate accepting defeat honestly and somewhat graciously.
Yeah, but I think it's setting all of the 2020 stuff aside. It's a hard thing to do, and I talk about how I appreciate John Adams' loss to Thomas Jefferson as one of the biggest tests of our democracy. Right?
Yeah.
George Washington stepping down, no question, but John Adams graciously or ungraciously, but acknowledging the loss to Thomas Jefferson, that was a big moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that political losses should be celebrated because you put yourself out there, you put yourself on the line, you put your reputation on the line, and it doesn't work. But it's part of why America works because we try and then we move on.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I appreciate you mentioning that. Again, Florida races, both Republicans won the special elections in Florida. Of course, one was a seat left vacant by Matt Gaetz stepping away from Congress. Another was left vacant by Secretary Waltz or Security Advisor Waltz's seat there. So Republicans won both of those, maintaining a thin cushion for Republicans in the U.S. House. Of course, we know that 2 other vacancies in Arizona and Texas are very solid blue Democratic-leaning areas. Democrats will likely pick up those seats. So the margin in the House will remain very, very tight for Speaker Mike Johnson and Republicans. Aaron, we'll continue this conversation. We'll continue to talk about the role of Elon Musk, his influence in Wisconsin, his role with the Trump administration. We're going to get into that coming up next here on Inside Sources.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Well, for those trying to get through Morgan County, it's a rough ride. Westbound I-84, a freeway is closed due to a serious injury accident prior to Mountain Green. All traffic will be detoured off I-84. Right now, we have solid backups as you're approaching the Enterprise-Peterson area. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
At Lowe's, pros save big on the supplies you need to get the job done. With the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards program, get member-only deals every week and access to free standard shipping. Plus, members earn points toward exclusive rewards. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. Program subject to terms and conditions. Free standard shipping not available in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusions and more terms apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for University Housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head.
The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Is the curtain closing on Elon Musk's time as a close advisor to President Trump? Reports now say that the president has informed members of the cabinet that Musk will be stepping away within the next few weeks. Politico magazine reports that the president isn't angry with Musk by any means, although, Taylor, I think we should talk about that, but that top political advisors and high-up members of the Trump administration have grown worried about Musk's unpredictability and potential political liability. And last night's Trump and Musk-backed candidate loss in Wisconsin, which we were just talking about, could be one of the final straws. All right. Elon Musk, actually, let's listen to a short soundbite from ABC's Catherine Falders, who talks about Musk's position.
The timing of this, in terms of what our sources are telling us that Trump is saying privately to advisors today, is significant because, of course, it comes on the heels of that Wisconsin Supreme Court race where the Democrat there won, and we know that Musk poured millions of dollars. Musk and his groups poured millions of dollars into that race.
So this was a position. His position was only supposed to last for 130 days, because he's a special government employee, and so that
very special, the most special, perhaps.
The most special government employee. But that special government employee designation gave him some opportunity. It exempted him from some ethics and conflict of interest rules, which I find interesting. But that 130-day period ends at the end of May. So this was always supposed to be a short-term thing.
Right.
However, I'd like your thoughts on this. Do you think this is earlier than normal? Because I'm looking at this thinking, of course, we all saw this coming. Trump wasn't going to keep Musk around forever. Trump doesn't like to share the spotlight, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get anything done with Musk. I don't know. What do you think?
No, it's interesting. If I'm President Trump, if I'm thinking strategically about my approval rating and my executive orders, the things I want to accomplish with Congress going forward, I could see two sides of the coin here. On one hand, we know that Democrats nationally have been polling on Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, we know that many Democratic candidates, even the successful winning candidate in this Wisconsin State Supreme Court race, they did a lot of advertising, not against Brad Schimmel, the Republican challenger, but against Elon Musk.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that was successful in Wisconsin, or that's why the more liberal Democratic candidate won. But I am saying the Democrats we know they're polling. We know that candidates are using the voter sentiment that is opposed to Elon Musk. They're using that to run against Republicans. Mm-hmm. So if I'm President Trump, I like having Elon as a shield, perhaps, that I can dispose of whenever I want. So I might want to keep him around longer, Aaron. Just saying, there's maybe a little more strategy, to this than we see on the surface. Let's hear again from ABC's Catherine Falders talking about, President Trump is still very happy with Elon Musk.
A couple days ago in the Oval Office, Trump was asked very specifically about Musk's status as a special government employee, that 130-day limit. And Trump did indicate on Monday that Musk would be taking a step back in some way. Trump said he thinks that Musk is amazing. And he said, quote, but I also think he's got a big company to run. And so at some point, he's going to be going back. He wants to.
All right. Well, here's the other side of this, too. If you're Elon Musk, and maybe this is too difficult to get into the head of Elon Musk, but if you're Elon Musk and you're looking at the damage that's now being done to your companies because of your role with the federal government. The Tesla stock prices have dropped. Tesla dealerships are under fire, like literally in some cases.
Yeah, in New Mexico, for example.
Right. I mean, like people are actually causing physical damage now to his businesses.
Yeah.
Does he look at that and say, all right, like, no longer worth it, or hey, I've got to go? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that Elon Musk would go there.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't calculate it that way.
Yeah.
I want to be careful here because I am just totally speculating and I'm not trying to be dramatic, but part of me thinks he might just enjoy all of that.
Enjoy the chaos.
All the drama, all the chaos, all the attention. One could argue that Elon Musk incited and relishes in a lot of the drama and a lot of that, the controversy surrounding that. Now, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's okay, or he wants it, of course. But I will say that the reaction by some to protest Tesla, I mean, we're talking about EVs here. You know, every Democratic friend I know owns a Tesla, and they bought it years ago, and only now suddenly are they putting stickers on the back to make sure everybody knows they don't like Trump or Elon just because they drive a Tesla, right? So the behavior is absurd. It's ridiculous by those who are protesting Elon Musk to start with. But Aaron, I think he sees it maybe as more of a vindication of what he's doing than a punishment.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Now, you know, is Trump... I mean, there are just so many. I would love to be a fly on the wall with some of these things, right? How does the cabinet feel about this? How do we feel about Doge generally? What happens to Doge when Elon Musk steps back? Does anybody else have the clout to push that forward?
It won't be nearly as fun, Aaron.
You know, are the cabinet members expected to continue the work that Doge was doing? How effective has Doge even been, honestly?
No, that's a really good question. And if I am a member of Donald Trump's cabinet, I might feel that Elon Musk and Doge are a huge distraction. We saw this play out in the early weeks of the administration.
We did. That first cabinet meeting was fascinating.
The first cabinet meeting was very interesting, a lot of drama. One can only imagine what happened maybe behind closed doors when the media was not there. Secretaries in Donald Trump's cabinet have had conflicting responses to Elon Musk and to Doge when it comes to their employees, right, in their agencies responding to Doge. A lot of, I think, intrigue behind the scenes, Aaron. At the highest level, though, if I'm President Trump, I love having Elon around as a shield, right, as a target for criticism, because at any moment as president, if I'm President Trump, I can dispose of Elon in terms like his position. That is not his life, not trying to make it his position. I can eliminate his position and remove Elon from power at any moment, right?
But here's the where that becomes a catch-22. If a lot of this is ultimately being driven by Trump, and you're using Elon Musk as a shield, and then you eliminate his position, you let him go back to his businesses. The shield's no longer there, but the policy positions are.
Yes.
And you no longer have a shield.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're Trump and you really want Elon Musk to be a shield, you'd find a way to keep him around until it starts to hurt your ability to do what you want to do.
That's exactly right. And I have to think, Aaron, what has been on my mind since we saw the outcome of this Wisconsin Supreme Court election last night, what I can't stop thinking about is if now suddenly Elon Musk has less leverage with the Trump administration because of what happened in Wisconsin. He put in a ton of his own money. He campaigned there personally, went as far as to wear a cheesehead hat.
I know, had a whole
on
rally.
stage at a rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin. That backfired. That backfired in a huge way. The liberal Democratic candidate won that election. It really wasn't close. That, I think, is not a good sign for Elon Musk's future with the Trump administration, because now suddenly he might be more of a political liability going into the midterms than an asset.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And the fact that they made this announcement the day after that election, I don't know.
The wheels are turning, Aaron.
Yeah, the wheels are turning. We'll see. But again, I do want to ask you this final question. Do you think Doge has been effective? Do you think Doge has done what it needed to do?
What is I would answer your question with a question. How do you, and this is me pretending to be an attorney because we're hosting together.
Yeah, I know.
I also do this at family dinners. The question is, what is effective? What is the goal of Doge, Aaron? Is the goal of Doge to balance the budget? I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think so.
I believe the goal of Doge is to get a lot of attention and to make sure all of us in the media are talking nonstop about Elon Musk blowing up the size and scope of the federal government. And if that's the goal, then the answer is yes, Doge has been wildly effective.
So it's a PR stunt.
I believe so.
Well, we still have like 3.5 years of the Trump administration left. I mean, we're only a
Is
few
it
months
already?
into-
How far into this thing are we?
We're not even a full 6 months into this thing yet. So if this has been a PR stunt, we have most of the administration left. I just don't know that people are going to remember this 3 years from now. And
I don't know.
I don't know.
Never underestimate President Donald Trump, Aaron.
I guess that's true. All right, when Inside Sources returns, the U.S. House of Representatives had a full schedule of voting this week, but that has all been canceled. Why? We're going to talk about the reasoning from Speaker Mike Johnson next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top local story this hour. The jury has now been selected for the latest Lori Vallow Daybell trial. She's accused of co-conspiring with her brother to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Nate Eaton with East Idaho News is in Arizona covering the case. He joined Utah's Morning News to give insight on what he's seen so far.
There was a hearing on Monday where she raised objections and motions, and a couple of times that she would kind of ask the judge a question, and he would say, Lori, I can't give you legal advice. You are your own attorney. And she sparred with him. I mean, there were feisty moments. There were heated moments. It will be interesting to see how that plays out with witnesses in front of the jury as this thing gets going.
Opening arguments start Monday. The trial will be live streamed and is set to begin at 11:30 local time. Prosecutors think it could last up to 6 weeks. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Denmark's prime minister is visiting Greenland.
Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen visiting Greenland today for talks with the territory's incoming government. Her 3-day trip comes less than a week after a visit from U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. It also comes just after Jens Frederik Nielsen was sworn in as Prime Minister of Greenland. Nielsen has said that Greenland will strengthen its ties with Denmark while it works to fulfill its ultimate wish to become a sovereign nation, and that the U.S. will not get Greenland. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News, at the Foreign Desk.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is up by 82 points, sitting at 42,073. S&P 500 up by 13, and the NASDAQ up by 59 points. Wet weather, not done with us yet. We'll check the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hey, are you nervous about this stock market volatility and what will happen with tariffs, taxes, and Social Security? You're invited to a free educational event with Jeff Bush. Jeff's been featured in Investment News and CNBC. He's a nonpartisan authority that talks about this is what's going on in Washington right now. Here's how it could impact you. And these are the actionable strategies that could protect and grow your retirement savings. This event is hosted by Boss Retirement Solutions. See Jeff Bush live on Thursday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m. in downtown Salt Lake. Reserve your free ticket now by calling 801-850-6988. That's 801-850-6988. 801-850-6988.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Boss Retirement Solutions and Advisors paid Jeff Bush for his appearance, but he is not affiliated with our firm.
Is your AC ready for summer? Don't wait for the heat to hit. Weak airflow? Warm air? Strange noises? These are warning signs your AC needs attention. Our skilled technicians offer AC repair services or replacements to keep your family cool all summer long. Don't sweat it. 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning has your back. here to keep your home cool all summer. Visit onehour.com to schedule today. Financing options available.
Are you a small business owner who needs immediate cash flow? At Swish Funding, we have flexible funding options from $25,000 to $2 million. For the best rates and terms for your business, just one application to Swish Funding gives you access to our entire network of funders, with cash in your account in as little as 24 hours. To qualify, you must be in business for at least 1 year with monthly revenue of $50,000. Apply at swishradio.com and use code GROW. Swishradio.com, code GROW.
Emergency traffic coverage continues. Traffic and weather brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. And here's Ricky Meese.
Westbound I-84 still closed in Morgan County due to the crash near Mountain Green. All traffic will be forced to exit the freeway at exit 99. And we do have delays back to Peterson and Enterprise. Our text line is always open. You can text us anytime with a traffic tip on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. Try UTA and get more done while you ride. Games, work, books, shows. You'll be too busy to notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Taking a look at the forecast for the Wasatch Front, 40% chance of showers into this evening, 30% chance tomorrow, then 20% on Friday. Looks like the weekend, maybe a tiny chance of showers, but the highs getting back up near 60. Right now, 43 degrees downtown. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
The U.S. House of Representatives will not be voting on any more bills this week. No votes on the SAVE Act. No votes to address judges ruling against President Donald Trump. Why? Because House Speaker Mike Johnson says his hands are tied because of a vote to take down a rule that passed with all Democratic and several Republicans voting in support. This fight comes over a push to allow proxy voting for new parents who are also members of Congress. Welcome back to KSL Inside Sources. I'm Taylor Morgan here with Aaron Ryder. Aaron, immediate reactions to Speaker Mike Johnson canceling work this week?
Well, I think there are two issues here. One is this fight over proxy voting for new parents, which I think it'd be interesting to get our thoughts on that and talk about that. And the other is Speaker Johnson's reaction to it in canceling the votes. I kind of think this was a big temper tantrum. He could have continued to hold votes.
Or, Aaron, perhaps this is a sneaky way to take off work for Liberation Day. Or Liberation Week, if you will.
Liberation Week. That's right.
It's not officially a national holiday yet. Maybe Speaker Mike Johnson here just wanted a little time off.
It's liberation from Canada and liberation from new parents and proxy voting.
Correct.
That's what it is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's also a strategic way of killing the momentum for this thing and taking another, pulling back, whipping votes so that he can officially kill this. Maybe that's the bigger play here.
Yeah.
But it comes across very much as a tantrum.
The timing, all of it seems a little bit odd. Let's hear directly from U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who posted to X on why he canceled voting this week.
Well, it's a very disappointing result on the floor there. A handful of Republicans joined with all the Democrats to take down a rule. That's rarely done. It's very unfortunate in this case. 96% of House Republicans voted against proxy voting because they believe it's unconstitutional and they agree that it would open a Pandora's box. And so that's what we just saw. Let me just make this clear. That rule being brought down means that we can't have any further action on the floor this week. That means we will not be voting on the SAVE Act for election integrity. We will not be voting on the rogue judges who are attacking President Trump's agenda. We will not be taking down these terrible Biden policies with the CRA votes. All that was just wiped off the table. It's very unfortunate. We'll regroup and come back, and we'll have to do this again.
Okay, Aaron, all of this comes immediately following what is being called a GOP rebellion in the U.S. House, led by Florida Representative Anna Paulina Luna. This has been argued by some to be Speaker Mike Johnson's most significant legislative loss of the year so far. This adds a lot of pressure on Speaker Johnson, who is trying to pass bills with a very, very thin GOP majority in the House. There are a lot of new criticism coming of Speaker Mike Johnson. What do you think, Aaron? Do you think this was maybe a little bit of a tantrum, political backlash to that drama?
I mean, first of all, let's clarify who Anna Paulina Luna is, by the way. She is a Florida representative, but she's the one who was put in charge of, like, the JFK assassination files.
Good point. Yeah.
That's who she is, right? So we're talking about a very conservative member of the House who's now being called a rhino for moving away from Johnson's standpoint here. I think this is a weird issue for Johnson to be taking such a hardline stance on. I mean, proxy voting, yes, there is a slippery slope component to it for sure. However, I also think, like, and as many of the Republicans who voted in favor of this said, look, we're the pro-family party, and we're gonna make it difficult for new parents to do their job.
As an attorney, what can you tell us about the constitutional argument, though? Because part of the criticism of this proxy voting is that it's technically unconstitutional. Do you think that is right?
The courts have not specifically said that. And proxy voting was really introduced back in 2020 with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House due to COVID. So this was a way for the House to continue to function and continue to operate under COVID, because you couldn't get to Washington, D.C. And then and it continued up through 2022, I think, is when they finally pulled back on it. And it was abused. There's no question about it. There were members of the House that were going on vacation or going to conferences or campaign events instead of going to Washington, and they were just voting by proxy. So they pulled back on it and said, nope, we're not going to do this. But as far as I'm aware, the courts have not actually ruled and said that this is unconstitutional. The Constitution wants you to be present. It wants members to be present. But what does present mean in 2025? This isn't 1776 anymore. This is 2025. And I don't know. I don't know. But I think they have the ability to do it if they want to. They just don't seem to want to.
Yeah. This was a bipartisan vote, right?
Well, it was a mostly Democratic vote with 9 Republicans?
That's right.
But it was led by a Republican. That's what's so interesting about this. And I think, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, please.
I think this is why people are calling this a huge loss for Mike Johnson, because it shows that he doesn't have his house in order.
Yeah.
Right? And that Anna Paulina Luna, just went to the Democrats and said, look, I want to override this and I want to force a vote. And they said, okay, let's do it. So she completely circumvented GOP leadership.
And this is exactly the thing that Speaker Mike Johnson has done, in my opinion, so brilliantly in the past, right? As Speaker, he has rallied enough Democrats to the Republican vote to pass significant pieces of legislation in the House with a slim but bipartisan vote, right? He has been doing exactly this, passing bills with, 222 votes, right, in favor, including most Republicans and, often a lot of Democrats.
Yeah.
In this instance, the table was turned against Speaker Mike Johnson, and that is why I think it is such a significant, profound loss for Speaker Johnson, because it says a lot about his ability to wrangle his caucus in the U.S. House.
Yeah, and it also shows the danger of that margin, because, if you can get the entire Democratic caucus on board with what you want to do,
oh boy,
and you just get a couple of Republicans to join you,
yeah,
you can override the Speaker and the entire House leadership.
Yeah, if you're
that's significant.
If you're Hakeem Jeffries, if you're Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries right now, your eyes are wide open, Aaron, to all kinds of possibilities, right?
Because essentially what this did is it forces the vote. GOP leaders were not going to bring this issue to the floor, and Anna Paulina Luna created what's called a discharge petition, which forces the vote anyway. So that's what this is. And leadership has tried to kill it. They tried to kill it yesterday. They were unable to kill it. And that's why, anyway, that's where all this is coming from. So if you can force votes on discharge petitions by getting around leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
This ultimately comes down to proxy voting.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of proxy voting for those who have justification, right? For new moms, for parents, right? On the other hand, though, Aaron, Congress rarely does its job. Members of Congress are elected to be there and to vote. And so I do understand the criticisms of proxy voting.
Sure.
But at the same time, we should have a modern Congress that operates in the 21st century, in which, new mothers, fathers who are also trying to watch over, a 3-month-old child, they could also participate and vote by proxy. We have to be able to do both, right?
Yeah, and some of the criticism has been, look, if you know the job when you sign up for it. So if you are not in a phase of life where you can do it, then times and seasons. I mean, that's ultimately Marjorie Taylor Greene's argument, and not that I ever want to be on the side of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but that was her thing, times and seasons. However, there's no other option. I don't know. I just don't buy it.
Yeah. Well, coming up next here on Inside Sources, we are going to bring the conversation back here to local Utah politics. We have some news, Aaron, that 2 of Utah's smallest, least impactful political parties have decided to join forces. Will that make a difference? Will suddenly now they have any kind of an impact in Utah politics? We'll talk about that coming up after the break.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission. Free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Emergency traffic continues on KSL News Radio. Brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits, westbound I-84 in Morgan County. That remains closed due to a serious accident near Mountain Green. If you're traveling westbound, you'll see the delays after passing Morgan, but well before Enterprise, and it's advised that you may want to just delay your travel time or avoid this spot altogether and try an alternate route. No estimated time as to when the freeway will be reopened, and traffic is being diverted off the road at exit 96. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meeson, the KSL Traffic Center.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness, and Utah isn't immune.
With nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or some other form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. KSL has teamed with 988 Utah, the free suicide and crisis lifeline, to bring you hope and help you thrive.
If you or a loved one is experiencing a mental health crisis, call or text 988.
Because a healthy mind matters.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Break your spring break routine and make your way into a unique balance of outdoor adventure and arts. In Cedar City and Bryan Head, you'll be greeted with stunning views combined with the most epic trails at Cedar Breaks or Three Peaks Recreation Area. Recreation enthusiasts, we're talking to you. Visit Parowan's Evil Water Bike Trails, Thor's Hammer, and Kolob Canyon to take the ride and hikes of your life. The trip wouldn't be complete without one of the scenic drives and byways in the region to experience breathtaking overlooks and magical views. That's not all. Cedar City is known as Festival City, USA, hosting dozens of events including free music festivals, parades, farmers markets, and more. But make sure to spend a little time in their historic downtown, lined with quaint shops, eateries, and museums. So break away to the vibrant and welcoming communities of Bryan Head and Cedar City. Plan your visit today at cedarcity.com. That's cedarcity.com.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Two of Utah's political parties are joining forces, hoping to make bigger waves against the traditional Democrat and Republican parties. Today, the United Utah Party and the Utah Forward Party have announced plans to merge operations. Now, in case you don't know these parties, just a couple of candidates that you might recognize. In the 2024 cycle, Michelle Quist ran for Attorney General as a member of the United Utah Party. And then the Utah Forward Party, which is still actually quite new. This was in the news recently when State Senator Dan Thatcher announced he was leaving the Republican Party and joining the Utah Forward Party on the final day of the legislative session. Now, Taylor and I are two Republicans sitting here talking about this.
Yeah.
And Taylor, I would just like to know, what do you see the future being for this new United Utah Forward Party?
Okay, before I get into my hot takes and offend everyone, Aaron, I want to maybe just lay out a quick disclaimer that I respect and appreciate any kind of political engagement by anyone and everyone. I believe it's a good thing when we have more people involved in the process, regardless of the party. And I completely understand how some have different ways of going about contributing to political discourse and political involvement. Okay.
I cannot wait to hear what your actual take is.
Is that enough of a disclaimer?
That's quite a disclaimer for whatever you're about to say.
So having said that, Aaron, this is ridiculous. There is no future whatsoever for the United Utah Party, or OOP, as I call them, nor is there any kind of future whatsoever for the Utah Forward Party. These parties only exist on paper, and barely that with the state elections office, Aaron. We have 9 political parties here in the state of Utah, okay?
Can you name all 9?
The Constitution Party has
you're reading it.
6,500 active registered voters. I'm reading this list, Aaron, because the Lieutenant Governor's office posted online at voteutah.gov the current numbers of active registered voters by party affiliation in the state of Utah. So I have a list up here because I need to make the point. I need to justify my argument that the Utah Forward Party and the United Utah Party are ridiculous. Okay, I'm not just going to say that. I have to back it up with evidence if I'm going to make a strong claim like that.
Prove
okay,
it.
Constitution Party here in Utah, 6,500 active registered voters. The Democratic Party in Utah, 241,000 active registered voters. The Green Party, 660 active registered voters. Independent American Party, Aaron, has 74,000 active voters. Libertarian Party has just under 19,000. The No Labels Party has 11,000. The Republican Party has 934,000 active registered voters. And now, Aaron, we get to the United Utah Party, which has 2,200 active registered voters, and the Utah Forward Party has 200.
So they're going to have 2,400.
2,400, Aaron. 2,400 active registered voters. That, bless their hearts, okay, as my mom would say. Really appreciate them getting involved. But here is my complaint, and here is my rant, and anyone can push back on this and correct me and have different opinions that are as equally strong and perhaps misguided as mine, okay? These parties have zero impact on Utah elections. They recruit and try to run candidates who never win, Aaron. All that time and energy and money trying to make a third party work it's a waste. If you care about politics, if you are an organizer, an activist, a politico, a volunteer, if you're a prospective candidate, you gain nothing by running as a third-party candidate in Utah. You gain nothing.
Well, I think, okay, so...
Instead, can I just say,
keep going.
what we really need these individuals to do is rather than taking their ball home and crying about it all the way there, like Senator Dan Thatcher. I love Dan Thatcher. He does a lot of good things. But he threw a tantrum on the floor and he left the Republican Party because he didn't get what he wanted in the legislative session. That is not effective representation. That is not leadership. Instead, join the Democratic Party, Senator Thatcher. Instead, stay in the Republican Party and have a positive impact and influence in a real party. Because taking your ball home and not having a seat at the table or a table, that doesn't help your constituents. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, I'll sit back.
Okay. Boy, how do I respond to that? So, recently I was presenting to a group of women about running for office, and we talked about this a little bit. And one of the things I said was, look, if you are running for office, you need to decide why you're running. Are you running because you want to make a point, or are you running because you want to win? And if you're running because you want to win and to do the job, you have to be realistic about what that actually entails.
Yeah.
And running as a third party, if you are not a Republican or a Democrat, or if you're a Democrat in a deeply Republican area or a Republican in a deeply Democratic area, you're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that there aren't good things that can't come out of that race and that you can't make good points from it. But the strategy that you then use when running that race is going to change. And I feel that way a little bit with the Utah Forward Party and the United Utah Party. This is a party where you go because of idealism. You go there because you are tired of the other parties and you're making a point about not being part of one of the two major parties.
So you've given up on trying to make a difference.
Well, but you do it knowing that you're likely not going to win.
Right.
That you're almost certainly not going to win.
And so what you do is you leave the two major parties. You leave those parties, and who stays in charge of those parties? The more extreme, radical affiliated members of those parties. Our parties become worse when we have people leaving them to create third parties.
Well, and that's because in the history of our country, we've never really been in a scenario where three parties works.
We've always been a two-party system.
Again,
always.
Contrary to all of George Washington's warnings, we have always been a two-party system.
Right.
And so, I mean, this is really, for all of those who are listening, this is the meat and potatoes of the reality of running for office, right? The strategy of running for office. You can run all day long, but if you don't know how to strategize, if you don't have people who can help guide you in that strategy, you're not going to have a chance of winning. And then, there's a question about what's the point of running.
Yeah. Okay, can I say, making another inflammatory comment on it?
I'm trying to temper you a little bit.
Since I've already really angered all of our good Utah Democrats, whom I love, as a Republican consultant, I have run Democratic and Republican campaigns in Utah. I cut my teeth in politics running Democratic legislative races, Aaron. So I'm not a super partisan person. I want good candidates regardless of the party, right? Democrats, you're part of the problem here. Democrats have an open primary, which means anyone can participate in their primaries. It's one of the reasons why we have 475,000 unaffiliated voters in Utah, Aaron. Mm-hmm. Democrats, close your primary, force voters to register with your party. If you don't have to RSVP to the event, Aaron, it's not exclusive, and anyone can go. So you don't want to go. Democrats need to close their primary so their candidates know who their voters are.
I think that's a good point. And I'm thinking about the Attorney General race, right? In the debate for Attorney General, I think Rudy Bautista, who was the Democratic candidate, made a point where he said, look, I'm running as a Democrat because I wanted the support of the Democratic Party and I wanted my name to have the D next to it.
Yeah.
And you know what? He way outperformed Michelle Quist, even though Michelle Quist was in many ways significantly more eloquent and articulate in that debate than Rudy Bautista.
Absolutely.
But he had a D next to his name.
Right.
And it mattered.
And one could argue that having that third-party candidate on the ballot was nothing more than a distraction that hurt the Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, we're expecting to hear President Trump announce a slate of new tariffs. We're calling it Liberation Day. We'll take his remarks live. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top story this hour. We are waiting for the president to announce another round of tariffs at any minute now. More from ABC's Karen Travers at the White House.
The White House had said yesterday that the president had made a determination, had made his decision, but also said that the president was meeting with his trade and tariff team to perfect the plan. We're hearing today, though, that those conversations are still continuing, and they're looking to find a place where they can all agree before they make this announcement today.
The White House remains tight-lipped on the details, but business across the country say that they will have to pass along the higher costs to the consumer. The man who was a suspect behind last week's Amber Alert is in court today. Ricardo Trujillo has been asked to appear in person as he's facing 3 felony counts related to the murder of his children's mother and setting their trailer on fire. In today's hearing, the court will decide if there's enough evidence to proceed to a preliminary hearing. And your money at this moment, the Dow ending the day up by 82 points, about 0.25%, sitting at 42,073. S&P is up by 13 points, and the NASDAQ ending up by 59 points. Still some unstable weather out there. Some showers coming up. We'll check the forecast for you next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Get a head start on the warmer months ahead with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Yes offers licensed technicians and an exceptional service guarantee to give you peace of mind and help prevent expensive breakdowns. Ensure your system is working at peak efficiency and help save money on energy costs with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions. Just say yes.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic coverage brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Well, this is what we've been waiting for. Westbound I-84 is now open once again to traffic. The crash has been cleared prior to Mountain Green, and no traffic will need to be exiting from the freeway at exit 96. But if you are traveling westbound I-84 in Morgan County, you can expect residual delays. It starts a few miles after Morgan and approaching well before the Enterprise-Peterson area. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Still a 40% chance of showers across the Wasatch Front into this evening, 30% chance tomorrow. Today's high 47 right now, 42 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
This hour, President Donald Trump will address the nation. He will speak about his planned tariffs that he claims will restore things like American manufacturing. While we wait for President Trump to begin speaking, Aaron, let's talk a little bit about what we know when it comes to these planned tariffs. Welcome back to KSL Inside Sources. I am Taylor Morgan here with Aaron Ryder. Of course, Aaron, that wonderful intro music, very patriotic music. Here we are celebrating in some ways what we call Liberation Day, or what President Trump is calling Liberation Day. We're having a little bit of fun with this. I think it is fair to say that there are a lot of questions about these tariffs, what exactly President Trump means when it comes to Liberation Day. But Aaron, I have to stop it there because we have just received word that President Trump is about to start speaking now. Okay, let's go ahead to breaking news with President Trump's speech on Liberation Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice crowd. What a good-looking group of people. Well, we have some very, very good news today, and a lot of good things are happening for our country. Please sit down. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before. Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country, and you see it happening already. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. And ultimately, more production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices for consumers. This will be indeed the golden age of America. It's coming back, and we're going to come back very strongly. We're pleased to be joined on this momentous occasion by Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D., thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where are you, J.D.? No, that wasn't too hard to find. I was looking, you know, he likes to take a low-key attitude, so it'd usually be sitting right in front. He's gaining a lot of confidence, Mike, isn't he? And nearly my entire cabinet is here, as well as Speaker Mike Johnson, who's done an amazing job. And with the great success we had last night in Florida, we have a majority of 7. And 7's like a lot when we had it at 1, right? You've done a fantastic job. And many of the members of the House and Senate are with us. Senators, Congressmen, thank you all for being with us. We appreciate it. For decades, the United States slashed our trade barriers on other countries, while those nations placed massive tariffs on our products and created outrageous non-monetary barriers to decimate our industries. And in many cases, the non-monetary barriers were worse than the monetary ones. They manipulated their currencies, subsidized their exports, stole our intellectual property, imposed exorbitant VAT taxes to disadvantage our products, adopted unfair rules and technical standards, and created filthy pollution havens. They were absolutely filthy, but they always came to us and they said, we're violating, we should pay for it. It's all detailed in a very big report by the U.S. Trade Representative on Foreign Trade Barriers, and I'll just hold it up for you. It's available, and you don't have to pay too much. As I understand it, you'll pay nothing. It's a lot of work for something, actually, because it's a special book. It's very, frankly, it's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years. This all happened with no response from the United States of America, none whatsoever. But those days are over. Let me offer just a few examples of the vicious attacks our workers have faced for so many years. The United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that. Likewise, until today, the United States has for decades charged a 2.5 tariff. Think of that, 2.5% on foreign-made automobiles. The European Union charges us more than 10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations. As a result of these colossal trade barriers, 81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. Thank you. Brian, I'd like to have you come up here for a second, okay? I just see him sitting. He's been a fan of ours, and he understands this business a lot better than the economists, a lot better than anybody. Brian, say a few words, please, would you?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. It's a great honor to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the Metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized, and Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
What a great guy. He got it right from the beginning. He got it before almost anybody else. This group over there, they got it too. And, you know, we won the state of Michigan. We won almost all of them. But we won Michigan by a lot, and I want to just thank you all. The auto workers were fantastic. The Teamsters were fantastic. Everyone was pretty good, I will tell you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You're going to be very happy very soon, and you probably see what's happening with all of the, not only car companies, but car companies in particular. You see it with all of the ones they're moving, they're announcing day in, day out. You're seeing it. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. Brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%. But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country. And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves, and you got to, this is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years, and we're really not taking it anymore. Through non-tariff barriers, the European Union bans imports of most American poultry. You understand? They say, we want to send you our cars, we want to send you everything, but we're not going to take anything that you have. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting about midnight tonight, I would say. And China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea charges 50%. Actually, they charge different, from 50% to 513%. And Japan, our friend, charges us 700%. But that's because they don't want us selling rice and other things. Who can blame them, Madam Secretary? Agriculture, great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. You got them down 50% once we got involved. They were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky, and you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs, and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further. We charge 2.8% for so many things that other countries are charging 200%, 300%, and 400% for. If imposing tariffs and protective barriers made nations poor, then every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country, but they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, that's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay, and then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first, and I'm sorry to say that. And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first. In Sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to determine it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. You're not so kind when you got ripped off with your salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The prime minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades, and it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China, charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs, and they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand, and the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. A trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot, Howard. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing, all right? I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long. He's going to put it, it's going to follow you down with the wind. I brought a hat just in case it got too windy, but here, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come here. Thank you, fellas. Get it. That's it. That's it. They deserve it more than our cabinet. Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart. And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity, and there are a lot of bad things happen at the people that do the check-in, and they're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat, the repercussions are going to be extremely strong. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away over the last 4 years under Biden. I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept. To any company that objects to our common sense reciprocal tariffs, again, reciprocal, back and forth, back and forth. And I call this kind reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple if they complain. If you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. And we've seen companies coming in like we've never seen before. Likewise to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs. I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their currencies like nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating to us. And start buying tens of billions of dollars of American goods. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. And many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm. But even more importantly, they will give us growth. These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before. And it'll be something very special to watch. I am so looking forward. And Brian, it's going to happen even faster than you said. You know, you might say, but it's already started. It's already started. Work's already begun on plants all around the country. And you see that as before. These are big, rich companies. We have $61 billion started on a big plant going up. It's going to be announced over the next 2 days, and they already started work. Many of these the biggest companies in the world, they've committed to build. We're going to build, sir. And they came here to see me, and they wanted to know if they could have a press conference. I do as many as I can. I'm pretty busy trying to stop Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. We got to stop that. We got to stop the Houthis, which we're making tremendous. They like shooting ships down and out of the water, sinking ships. They get a kick out of it, but they're not getting such a kick out of it now, are they, Mr. Secretary? They're not getting such a kick out of that now. But here are just a short list of some of the companies that have already announced and committed to investment. And this is a company that built its factories and its plants in China. Apple is going to spend $500 billion. They never spent money like that here. They're going to build their plants here. SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle, great companies, are investing $500 billion almost immediately. NVIDIA, a hot company, is investing hundreds of billions of dollars. They just announced. TSMC, the biggest, most important company in the world of chips from Taiwan, with no investment from us, is investing $200 billion. And they said the reason was, number one, the election of November 5th, and number two, the tariffs. They don't want to pay the tariffs, and the way they're not paying it is to build their plant here. So we're going to go from almost no percentage. We used to have 100% of the chip market. Now it's all in Taiwan. Almost all of it's in Taiwan, a couple of other countries, but mostly in Taiwan. And think of it, we had 100%. We lost it because of people in that office that didn't do their job. They allowed it to be stolen from us. Johnson & Johnson, great company, $55 billion. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. Meta is investing $500 billion. Wow. DeMac is investing $20 billion. CMA, CGM, $20 billion. And then you have Merck and Clarios, Stellantis, General Motors, GE Aerospace, Honda, Nissan, Hyundai are all putting in billions and billions of dollars, and they're committed 100%. So. And we've never had, and this is after 2.5 months. This is after just a short, this all took place as soon as we came out with what everybody wanted to do. You know, I watched a gentleman today on television, used to work with Lee Iacocca, a very respected automobile person, and he said, you know, because they're asking people, and they try and get as many negative people as they can, but they can't find them too much. It's pretty hard to find in terms of what we're doing, especially when they see all this investment. They said, so tell me, what do you think of what Trump is doing from the automobile standpoint? He said, I can't believe it. Somebody is finally, he's an older guy, real pro, really top guy, with Lee Iacocca. He said, I never thought I'd see the day when this would happen, where somebody had the courage to go and do what has to be done. This is transforming our nation. Our entire nation is going to be transformed, not only with the cars, but on every single other item that's built. We're going to become an industrial powerhouse. And he said that so beautifully today. In fact, I'm going to find out, I'm going to get a tape, And Bruce, I'm going to get that tape and I'm going to send it to you out in Long Island, and you're going to play it for the people and all your union workers and your non-union workers out there. You got a pretty even split. But we have, so far, it looks like we're going to have about $6 trillion of investments, and you wouldn't do that in years in this country over the last number of years. $6 trillion, and that's going to be much higher by the end of the year. And think of what $6 trillion is. You wouldn't have even a small percentage of that under this other system. We're going to be an entirely different country, and it's going to be fantastic for the workers. It's going to be fantastic for everyone. There will never have been a transformation of a country like the transformation that's already happening in the United States of America. It's an incredible thing to watch, and it's incredible to meet with the top people, people that you read about, very wealthy people, or people that are great managers and executives and presidents of big public companies, and to watch the enthusiasm they have now that they didn't have. They gave up on our country. They went to foreign countries and they built. Companies are pouring into our country at levels never seen before, with jobs and money to follow, and it's really beautiful. In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always, the fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries. In my first term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say, hey, if you can get away with it, that's okay. But, you know, they understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something, but, and they're going to fight, and they're going to fight fair. Everyone's going to fight. You know, it's like, I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years. From the day of my election, the stock market went up in my first term 88%, with NASDAQ going up 155%, more than any president has ever had in any term in office, by far. And I think we're going to blow that away. And maybe the numbers won't show, but I think they're going to show much better than even those numbers. But what you're going to see is you're going to see activity, that empty, dead sites, factories that are falling down. Those factories will be knocked down, and they're going to have brand new factories built in their place. They're not only talking about renovating, they're talking about brand new, the best anywhere in the world, the biggest anywhere in the world. I have a friend who builds car plants, and I said, I want to see the biggest and the best. He said, well, we have to go to Mexico. I said, no, I want to see it in the United States. He said, we're not building them in there. This is a year and a half ago during the campaign. He said, we're not building it. You'd have to go to Mexico. When I was starting to decide to run, and I went to number one in the polls very rapidly, I want to say, like, let's say in the first hour. And then shortly thereafter, it looked like I was going to win, and the fake news was saying, oh, no, don't do this. What they don't know is if I didn't win, they would have really been in trouble, because nobody wants to read them anyway. But I tell you what, when it looked like I was going to win, I announced that I was going to be doing exactly what we're talking about today. Great consistency, actually, because I've been talking about it for 40 years, but because I saw what was happening 40 years ago. If you look at my old speeches when I was young, very handsome, my old speeches, and that people would say, I'd be on a television show, I'd be talking about how we were being ripped off by these countries. I mean, nothing changes very much. The only thing that changed were the countries, but nothing really changes. But it's why it's such an honor. It's such an honor to be finally able to do this. If you look at China, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my term, hundreds of billions. They never paid 10 cents to any other president, and yet they paid hundreds of billions, so much so that Biden couldn't do anything. They wanted to try and terminate it. because he had a very special relationship with China. You know what the relationship was? He had a special relationship. But the numbers were so big, that they couldn't do it. So they did ease it up. They did things that they shouldn't have done. They made it a lot more comfortable for them, but they couldn't do it because the numbers were hundreds of billions of dollars, and I did that. And we were on our way to doing something like incredible. And then we had a very bad election happen, a lot of bad things happened. So when I said we got to do it again, I said we have to make it too big to rig, and we made it too big to rig, and we won in records, and it was a monumental win. And it was such an honor to see so many of you, like Brian and your friends, here with us to celebrate, and to more importantly celebrate what we're doing, because that wouldn't be a full celebration if we didn't do this, because this will be an entirely different country in a short period of time. It'll be something the whole world will be talking about it. The critics made the very tired predictions earlier this year, but in February, core inflation dropped to the lowest rate in 4 years. And the price of eggs, as you know, just in a month and a half, we were there for 4 weeks. And the first week, I got blamed for eggs. I said, I just got here. They said eggs have gone up at like 250%, and you can't get eggs. And they were going crazy. And I said, I just got here. And then we got to work on eggs, and we got to work on everything. And our great Secretary of Agriculture, you did a fantastic job. Brooke Rollins, she did a fantastic job. And as I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic. They were saying that for Easter, please don't use eggs. Could you use plastic eggs? I said, we don't want to do that. We want to, and you really came through. It's an amazing job. Thank you very much, Brooke. You did great. But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof, and I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot, and energy costs now are down. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way under $3, and people are beginning to be able to buy things and live again. We brought prices way down. We created 10,000 already in a few weeks, new manufacturing jobs. And it was that took place in 1 month, numbers that they haven't seen in a long time. We had virtually no inflation under my term. We had virtually no inflation for 4 years, but after transitioning over to Sleepy Joe, it went from almost non-existent to the highest in the history of our country. They had the highest inflation in the history of our country, brought up by energy and bad spending and bad policy, and a lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions and millions of people to pour into our country with open borders, where it's so sad to see even now. And I see our great secretary you have done. Stand up, please, Christy. Stand up. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan. These people are doing a great job, but gotten them out in records. We have problems with judges that don't want them to go out. They want Tren de Aragua, and they want MS-13, the most vicious gangs ever. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Absolute killer gangs. They kill people. They don't even think about it. And we put them out, and we have judges now, radical left judges that they don't want them to go out. They want them to even be brought back. Let's bring them back. You've done a fantastic job, and please thank everybody. Homeland Security, thank everybody. Appreciate it. And we now have a border that's the best border that we've ever had, even better than it was my first term. My first term we did good, but this one we really specialized in. We've done really well. And we had records then. We had the best, safest border 4 years ago. We had the best border there ever was. And now we have, you've actually matched it and done even better. And we're going to get it down the right way. And we want people, by the way, to come into our country, but we want to come in through a legal process. We want them to come in legally. We need more people. We need people to run these plants and to help the auto workers and the Teamsters and the non-union people and everybody else. But we need people and the farmers. And we're going to let people come in, but they want to come in. We want them to come in legally. They have to have the capability of loving our country, not people that hate our country. We don't want them in our country. And now we're going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and that's where we're relying on Mike and John Thune. And we will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits, and the Democrats will, because if they got in, the entire economy would collapse. This country was heading for a collapse under the people that you saw. They were horrible. I think one of the reasons people like the job, I have my highest approval ratings because I think they're comparing me to the worst administration in the history of our country, so I appreciate that at least. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader, appreciate it, Mike. John Thune have been fantastic, by the way. But they've been working tirelessly on taking the next step to pass the plan for our One Big Beautiful Bill. I'd like to name it that if you can. One Big Beautiful. I made that statement about 6 months ago, and everybody calls it One Big Beautiful Bill. And it will be that. It'll have everything, the big tax cuts and every incentive there is. And it'll be fantastic. And by the way, for the cars, we're asking for an interest deduction on a loan. So if you build the car, only in America we do it, Brian. If the car's not built in America, you don't get the interest rate deduction. But if you build the car in America, if you buy a car, if it's built in America, then you get an interest rate deduction, tax deduction, and that's a big thing. That's going to be a big thing. I think that's going to pay for itself very quickly, that deduction. Never happened. We've never had anything like that before. Somebody said, where do you get the idea? Because it's so basic. You would think that would have happened a long time ago. It never did, and I'm very happy it didn't because now I can say that was my idea. But we're going to get us closer to the debt extension. We have to get the debt extension passed, and I know you're going to be able to do that, Mike, and it's very important that you do that. And all of the other things that the Senate budget plan gives us, along with working, because I know they're working together, John and Mike, and the two bills are going very well together. We need to get our shared priorities done, including certain permanent tax cuts. We want the tax cuts to be permanent, spending cuts, energy and historic investments in defense, border, and so much more. We're covering everything. These will be phenomenal. There'll be no bill like this going to straighten. One bill is going to straighten out our country for many, many years to come. And we said, let's just do it and let's get it done. And some guys will love it and some guys will like it a little bit less because they're not getting what they were exactly looking for, but they're getting a lot. They'll never, if we get this done, it'll be the most incredible bill ever passed in the history of our Congress and Senate and congressmen, the senators and the congressmen, many of whom are here today, will be very proud of themselves. I really believe that. It's going to set us on a whole new prosperous path. We're going to cut spending and right-size the budget back to where it should be. We're going to do that very strongly. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. John, thank you. Oh, look at all of our senators over there. Oh, boy. That's a nice group of people. But I won't like them so much if they don't get this bill done. That's a great group. And Congressman, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tremendous people. The Senate plan is my complete and total support, and the House plan likewise is very similar. They're moving along pretty much at the same clip, and as soon as you're ready, you'll show it to me, and I'm sure it'll have my support, Mike. Every Republican congressman and senator must unify. We have to unify. We can't be separated. We have to get it done. We have to get absolutely everything we can, and we have to take care of the American people. That's the only thing that matters. We have to take care of the American people first. We need to pass this bill immediately, get it done, including debt extension. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. The pharmaceutical companies are going to come roaring back. They're coming roaring back. They're all coming back to our country because if they don't, they got a big tax to pay. And if they do, I'll be very happy, and you're going to be very happy, and you're going to be very safe. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart, American steel, and we're going to build it with American pride like we used to. We're approaching our 100th day as president and have been given credit by a lot of people, actually, even some of the fake news. Can you believe it? Which in this case hopefully isn't fake. for having done more in that time than any other administration in the history of our country in the first 100 days. I think we've had an amazing in terms of what we've done, what we've gotten accomplished. I'd like to see if we can get that war ended and another war from not starting in the Middle East. We have to get Russia. They're losing 2,000 on average, 2,500 people a day, young people, soldiers, Russian. Think of that, 2,500 through some days, but on average, probably over about a 1 week period, it's 2,712, they say. They're losing those soldiers. They're dying. They're being decimated. And they're not from our country, but they're from other countries. But they're human beings. They're from Russia. They're from Ukraine in this period, most of them. And we're going to get it stopped. It's a senseless war that would have never happened if I was president, and it shouldn't be allowed to go on. And I think we're being given good cooperation by Russia and by Ukraine, but we have to get it stopped. It's humanity. It's humanity. It's a terrible thing. This will be a very big moment. I think you're going to remember today. It's going to be a free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation. It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say, you know, he was right. This has turned out to be one of the most important days in the history of our country. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And with that, the president is now walking away in the Rose Garden, having finished his address, which lasted about 45 minutes. Taylor, Aaron, this is your show, so let's get your reactions to what we just heard.
Jeff,
Thanks, Jeff.
I have a lot of questions. I'm quite confused. I was asked if I would like a hat. That was fun. Also, the word grocery is an underappreciated term, I think. In all seriousness, though, I think the most striking moment of this press conference by President Donald Trump in the Rose Garden today was him holding up a large chart of reciprocal tariffs, kind tariffs, as he put them. Kind reciprocal, because those tariffs are half the rate of specific countries' tariffs on U.S. goods. He also, in addition, announced a 10% universal base tariff. We are trying to confirm some of the numbers on this to better understand if that 10% is in addition to the 50% reciprocal kind tariff, or if that kind tariff includes the 10%. Jeff, my point is a lot of questions remain.
Well, and we also have the 25% on foreign autos.
Correct. Certain countries like China and others and certain industries are targeted with additional rates that are in addition to or on top of the reciprocal tariffs. I will say, though, on a positive note, Jeff and Aaron, in my opinion, President Trump has really struggled with lack of clarity, with uncertainty, with a bit of flip-flopping, if you will, on these tariffs. That has hurt the markets, I believe. I should point out it's significant that Donald Trump started this press conference after the markets closed today. I think that is worthy of note.
But we're already seeing the stock futures fall.
Stock futures are down.
Yeah.
My hope is that once we wrap our heads around the giant chart of reciprocal tariffs and the other numbers, Aaron, my hope is that we'll have some certainty and clarity in the economy. That's good.
Let me ask both of you. By the way, when you get on social media tonight, you're going to see this chart everywhere that lists each country. This one charges us a 50% tariff. We'll charge them a 25% tariff. So let me ask you both, is there anything from this address that you found surprising?
I mean, the 25% tariff on autos, he's already talked about that.
Yeah.
One of my big questions is going to be, how serious are these numbers? I mean, we've seen Donald Trump implement tariffs and then immediately walk them back, and then implement tariffs and then immediately walk them back.
Right.
So when he first announced 25% tariff on foreign autos, I was kind of like, and is that it? Is that the entire reason we're having this press conference?
Right, yeah.
So that, that's not surprising. The 10% and the half, again, we need to see how those numbers actually bear out. But
I was surprised by President Trump's announcement about Apple committing to
coming back?
Yeah, coming back to the U.S., building a large manufacturing facility here in the United States. That was news to me. I was surprised by that.
That's actually been around for a week or
Has
two.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought he had mentioned something about that almost back in his inauguration
Yeah,
speech.
well, it might go back that far, but basically they're building a plant in Texas and another one, et cetera, et cetera. But I went and rechecked my math. Yes, it is a $500 billion deal, supposedly.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So perhaps a positive implication of these tariffs, if indeed large companies bring manufacturing back to the United States, but still a lot of uncertainty remains.
Yeah, well, we're certainly going to be talking about this more, especially as these tariffs start to be implemented. So make sure to continue to tune into Inside Sources for more coverage of this. Thank you for tuning in today to Inside Sources. We are off tomorrow, but tune back in for some of our favorite recent segments. And next up, you're going to have the pleasure of Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. Mostly cloudy, 43 degrees. KSL's top story, Liberation Day. That's what the president